All right, Algebra 1B students. Welcome to part 2 of lesson 2.1 on solving one-step, single-step equations. As we talked about in our last video, we have these properties of equality that we get to use to undo things that are currently being done to our variable. Reminder that our goal is always to isolate our variable, which means get it all by itself. So we're going to use two different properties in this video to try to accomplish that goal, and they are the multiplication property of equality and the division property of equality. Multiplication property says it's okay to multiply both sides by the same number. Division property says it's okay to divide both sides by the same number. Okay, so make sure both of those get down in your notes, and then all we're going to do in this video is just look at a few examples of how that might be used in order to solve an equation, isolate a variable, get it all alone by itself. Okay. So once these two properties are written down in your notes, let's scroll down and look at a couple examples. Okay, here's an example where they're asking us for the solution to the equation 4x equals 6.4. That means they want us to figure out what x equals here in this case. But what we have to notice is that our x number here is currently being multiplied by 4. Remember that when we just have a number and a letter next to each other, they are being multiplied together. So this is 4 times x equals 6.4. So we have to isolate our x by undoing that multiply by 4. Question is, how do we undo multiply by 4? Well, we do the opposite of multiply, which is divide. So we divide this side by 4 to get rid of the 4's. Those will cancel out, and I'll just have x. And then on the other side, I also have to do that side divided by 4. That's what my division property says. It's okay if I divide both sides of this equation by 4. So I end up with 6.4 divided by 4, and that equals 1.6. Okay, so my x value here is 1.6 because I just divide both sides by 4 to get the x all by itself. I undo the multiplying by dividing by 4. Get rid of that, okay? Here's a couple I would like you to look at. Find for me the solution to each of these equations. Both of these answers can be written as a decimal. But here in letter A, you should end up with x equals some number. And here in letter B, you should end up with z equals some number. Okay? So pause the video, take a look at these two, figure out what you have to divide by, what is currently being multiplied onto your variable. Divide by that and get the variable all by itself. Okay, in letter A, we should end up with 2/3 or 0.666666 forever with a 7 at the end if you want to round it off. And then in letter B, we are doing 14 divided by a negative 3.2, which ends up with a negative answer, negative 4.375. Excuse me, not 1.375, 4.375. Okay, so in this case, z equals negative 4.375, x equals 0.667. We just undo the multiplication that we have by doing division. Divide by whatever number is attached to your variable. You'll find your answer, you'll find your variable isolated all by itself. Okay? Now we can also see equations where what's happening to our variable is like division. So in this case where they're asking us for the solution again, they want us to find the solution here of the equation x divided by 4, or x over 4 equals negative 9. So when we see this fraction bar right here, we should always think about division. Okay, this is saying x divided by 4, x over 4, x divided by 4. So to undo the dividing by 4, we will multiply both sides by 4. Okay, we'll times that side by 4, and then we will times this side by 4 as well. So that undoes the 4 on the bottom, so all we have left is our x. And on the other side of our equal sign, because we have to multiply by 4 over there as well, we have negative 9 multiplied by 4, which ends up as a negative 36. Okay? So again, we've isolated our variable by undoing whatever it is that is currently being done to our variable. All right? x equals negative 36. Again, I'd like you to try that process a couple times as well. Take a look here at these two problems, letter A and letter B. Decide what is it that you're dividing your variable by in letter A, what is it that you're dividing your variable by in letter B, and then solve for the variable. Letter A should be r equals a number, and letter B should be x equals a number. Okay, r equals and x equals. When you solve letter A, you should solve it by doing 19 times by 3 to undo dividing by 3, and we get that r equals 57. And then in letter B, we should do 8 multiplied by negative 9, which will give us a negative 72 for x. Okay? So r equals 57, x equals negative 72. If you have questions about multiplying or dividing to solve a one-step equation to get a variable all alone and isolated, please make a note to ask me in class tomorrow. Otherwise, that's all I have for you. Have a wonderful night.